Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King, and today I'm going to be giving you the final episode, yes guys, the final episode of What If Naruto Became the Greatest Puppeteer. I just want to thank you all for continuing with me on this journey and for carrying it so far guys, and I just want to thank you all for all of your help and your support, because without you guys, this wouldn't have gone anywhere. So just want to thank you all again. And don't worry guys, because as you know, seeing that I'm finished up with these what ifs, new what ifs are coming up soon, a lot of them for you guys to enjoy. So just sit back, relax, and just, enjoy yourself. Because soon enough what ifs are coming up for you guys to enjoy guys. And remember, if you're new, go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become a part of the Making family. And also go ahead and check out the brand new episode of What If Naruto was transported to the Justice League world on Anime King 2, and enjoyed that guys. And on this channel I post a new episode of What If Naruto was trained by all the greats, so go ahead and enjoy it as well guys. And yeah, without further ado, what do you say begin this new episode? Start the intro. So the last time we left off, as Naruto was making his way to find out who the spy was, as he came upon the girl named Teiwaya, as the both of them started to talk, as she started to play her melody after Naruto asked if he could hear it. She then went out to attack him, but it was Dami, as Naruto's voice echoed out everywhere as he told her if she wanted to keep her identity of hiding her smart, she might as well use a different shade of makeup, because it doesn't match their face at all. As the both of them started a battle, as Naruto brought out Inari, as they had a violent battle as she entered her stage 2 curse mark with horns grown from her head. As they ended up wrecking the place a bit for the samurais to show up. When the samurais got there, they saw Naruto over one of their members, as Anko and Hanabi came there, as Naruto told them to stop. As they all surrendered, they were all brought in front of the daimyo. As something was wrong though, he was also treating his daughter harshly, and the way he was spoken to her, because he never spoke to her that way before. As Naruto broke out of the restraints, after all he had a prosthetic hand, as he connected his wires right towards the daimyo, as the man turned into one of the white Zetsus. Yes, it was one of the white Zetsus, as everyone was shocked by this revelation. After talking and sorting out things, and after talking to the new daimyo, as the little girl was pushed into his role, even though it was hard on her, as Naruto was also a bit compassionate for her, and he wanted to make sure she was okay, because there would be a lot of greedy people out there wanting advantage of her size. But he was sure that she would be a good leader, and after all, he also made sure that Jiraiya would stay the Hokage, as the man seemed to want to weasel right out of the job. So with that, they headed back as they got information, as Anko and Naruto made plans. They did not involve Hanabi in this because this was too dangerous and Naruto knew it, as Jiraiya did not know about it either, as Sasuke didn't arrive in the last though, as they all sneak out of the village. They made their way towards the clearing where Orochimaru was, waiting for them. He figured might as well just take out the problem right here right now. Something didn't happen to Sasuke, as a crow came out of his mouth, as it was what Itachi placed inside of him, as the Eye of Shizu was used to force Orochimaru to release all the cursed seals. Yes, as Anko and Sasuke cried out in pain before they dropped to the ground. As Orochimaru released some information that he had leaders all over in all of the nations, in all of the daimyos. As Naruto and him started a battle, he started to speak Naruto as he tried to convince Naruto that he was a cold-hearted monster who started a war for his own benefit. As Naruto acted like he was getting drugged into it and fighting even more dangerously, until Orochimaru got close enough. As everything exploded, as Orochimaru was sent sailing from the explosion, even Naruto that was in his distance felt the explosion, as Anko and Sasuke had already been brought to safety by Naruto clones. As out of the massive smoke though, came a giant snake that was looking down at him, as Naruto looked up at Manda. So yeah guys, so it's basically last we left off. You guys can switch across the page and check out for yourself. So, what do you say we begin this final episode? For a creature of his size, Manda can strike fast as any other snake, as Inari had to throw Naruto straight up in the air, as Manda crushed down where he once was. as the teeth bite deeply into the earth. Each was larger than he was tall and about twice as thick in the middle, as he allowed the scroll in his hand to flutter open with a giant poof. Part of him was hoping he got the opportunity to use this. It's been quite too long. The ground rumbled as Jorah crashed down, as she was larger than the last model, as she had an additional 2 arms. As Naruto owed at the pain, after looking about how the man Azure path worked, even when Manda reared back up, his head only reached her upper abdomen, as he looked around trying to find the puppeteer. As Jorah then moved forward, she brought her fist down. If Manda's speed was surprising, then Azura's speed was unbelievable. In one of Naruto and Jiraiya talks, he told Naruto that Manda always asks a price for Orochimaru summoning him, but it didn't seem he had enough time to do this right now, as Manda quickly snapped his head to the side, dodging the fist, but her other arm came out to grab him. But Manda's tail lashed out and slammed her in the leg, as Naruto watched all of this as he was inside of her chest. Yes, the sturdiest part that he could be, and he could watch and see everything through in his Byakugan, as he had trained with her to the point of exhaustion just to get her up to the right radius, as he could see the entire peak of this artificial clearing, as he allowed her to do Manda's strike, so he could get closer. 6 arms and lash out as they grabbed onto whatever they could. But Manda was incredibly slippery, as he used his tail again and struck at Azura's body. If she was flesh and blood, that would have knocked the wind right out of her, but her reinforced chest gave a groan under the harsh treatment, as he started to lash out again and again, as she started to be pushed back by the force of the lashing out. As large slashes were across her body, one of her arms was dangling uselessly at her side, and in that moment Manda struck, as his mouth was wide open to crush the puppet's neck. Except Manda had never fought a puppet before. He fought a puppet like he was fighting an opponent that had flesh and blood that could feel pain, as 4 arms grabbed the side of his jaw. The 5th went over his head, grabbing to a headlock. She started to pull his mouth wide open as he started to strike her over and over with his tail. They were futile though, unable to reach the heart of the puppeteer Naruto was unscathed. The moment he had Manda's arm open wide enough, 100 different compartments opened up on Azure's arms, as capsules were fired inside Manda's mouth. Each of them had enough explosive tag to level an entire building, and he just fired about 200 of them inside Manda's mouth. As Azura slammed his mouth shut, his eyes bulged as things went off inside of him. By the time Azura dropped him, black smoke was limping off his back as he poofed away back to his summoning realm, to either recover or to be buried. As Naruto's eyes were on the small figure that jumped from Snake's head after his defeat. A massive Rasengan soared to life in Azura's palms, larger than the puppet's head. Orochimaru quickly bit his thumb. "Rashomon," he said. Rasengan. Naruto brought the Rasengan down, as a demonic gate rose from the earth. A massive shriek could be heard as the Rasengan exploded outwards, blowing away every tree in the clearing, rooting everything away, breaking the ground apart. When the light finally died down, Orochimaru's defense was no longer there, just a massive trench in the earth. Azura paused as Naruto turned his eyes to get a better view of the situation, as he saw Orochimaru's legs awkwardly sticking out of the ground. As he saw the man shocking fading away. No, it wasn't fading, it was retreating, as Orochimaru slit her out of his own mouth, shedding his skin. As Azura's leg rose in the air to crush the man to the ground once again. He didn't know how many times Orochimaru could do that, but he intended to find out. But Orochimaru was quick to realize that simply blocking Azura wasn't enough, when the puppy could just keep on raining down attacks and attacks. As he leaped back away from the foot, already flipping through hand signs, as he slammed his hand on the ground. A second passed and bones then exploded from the earth, sharp and tall enough to reach up to Azura's knees, as the bones even pierced through her reinforced skin. In moments, Orochimaru neutralized Naruto's largest puppet, as he could move her arms obscure like this. He couldn't get her to stand again, and it would be a sitting duck for any more large-scale jutsu Orochimaru might conjure up. As Naruto climbed out, as he stood on her chest, Orochimaru was balancing on one of his bone spikes, a gift from one of my loyal subordinates, now serving me in the only way that he could. Such a remarkable bloodline, able to directly control. He was cut off, his inner tail smashed into his head, as he was sent sailing as he smashed through several bone spikes. "I really don't care," said Naruto, as Inir was sitting down in the spike that Orochimaru was standing on, as her tail peeled back. As the thing started to glow with light, there was a hole on the top of it. Another innovation he had pain to thank for. Despite the use of the Rasengan, he never imagined use pure chakra like a weapon like this, as the thing blasted out, as it tear through every single bone spike in front of him, destroying the area Orochimaru landed, but Naruto was sure that he was gone by then. It seems someone took more than a replacement hand from his battle with pain, Orochimaru said, as he sank out from one of the spikes. The fact that he could do that was a bit worrying, considering that Naruto was in the middle of the bone spikes. Inari shot forward, bouncing off the bone spikes, as she did a spinning kick towards Orochimaru. But suddenly she twisted and snapped the spike that he was thinking on, as it was broke in pieces, as he had to shoot straight up in the air to avoid her, as Inari refused to make him make contact with the bones once again, as she used the spikes and bounced herself up at him, as she pampered him with unusual attacks. Without leverage, the only thing he could do was block, and each attack launched him back straight in the air. Eventually, he got tired and grabbed one of Inari's arms. Her claw fingers curled in, raking across his forearm. He either didn't care, or didn't notice the poison going into them. He twisted his body and tried to throw her away, but because he had a grip on her, the same could be said for her as well. As the both of them were thrown, her tail then snapped out and catch on the bone spikes, bringing them to a stop. As Naruto forced her to clench her arms as hard as possible to snap Orochimaru's arms off. Orochimaru quickly opened his mouth, revealing a snake that crawled straight up his throat. The snake also opened his mouth to show a long sword inside. Inari was just fastened to her head, but it gouged right in her neck. That was surprising. Normal weaponry shouldn't be able to hurt her skin, and he did not detect any wind in that blade. As he used his momentum to twist out of her grasp and step on her like a stepping stone and flipped away. But a compartment in her abdomen opened up and sprayed sand bonds in the air where he had flipped. Orochimaru once again fired his sword, intent to use to push himself back further. But then, the chakra threads that were attached to Inari became orange, as a new power flooded into her body. As she grabbed the blade, she was sent sailing, but she did not get skewered. She grabbed onto the blade. As she was going to snap it, but the moment she turned, it wasn't breaking. It didn't even bend, whatever this was. But Orochimaru was on the tip of it, as he was sent sailing, as he was brought down with a tremendous force from 50 feet in the air and smashed hard. As Inari shot forward after him, not wasting any time. As when she got there, he had once again used the regeneration technique again, as he was on the other side of the clearing, grinning, standing very still, too still in fact. Naruto's eyes widened and chakra strings that he had, still attached to Azura, flourished with the Kyuubi's chakra. One of her arms lifted in the air as her palm opened up with numerous compartments. Dozens of cancer sped out, launched at little small balls, covered the clearing. These weren't explosive though. The moment they hit the ground, they burst open and green gas spread up in the air. Orochimaru choked as the entire clearing was bathed in green gas. Come now, Naruto-kun. You must know by now that poisons don't work on someone like me. Oh, I know, said Naruto, as he pulled up his goggles and a thin scarf on his neck. Both had seals on them so he wouldn't inhale any of the gas. It's not for you. As Orochimaru's Sharingan flickered and noticed everything, the grass, the trees, they were withering away and dying. In seconds, the entire clearing, and what looked to be a huge chunk of the forest, was withered away, and it was dead. As he felt a natural energy of the air wither away with the plant life as well. Very clever, he said, as Inari hopped down the crater. He was proud of this one, after thinking of many ways to combat Senjutsu. After all, if Jiraiya had it, then others might have it as well. Remove the nature as a variable. Yes, that was the best way to match Senjutsu. The only drawback was he hadn't noticed the opponent before they access stage mode, as he had noticed that when the purple tattoos around Orochimaru's eyes started to get thickened. Even with Inari Byakugan, he almost missed the man move. He was so fast. As he was in front of Inari, his knife hand drawn back, ready to strike. As she brought her hands up quickly, but Orochimaru weaved around and jammed her right in the shoulder. As she brought her arms to strike, but he just spun around it with quick speed. His other arm came and slapped away four of her tails as he twisted out of the way. Naruto was so glad that he cut off Orochimaru's Senjutsu molding when he could, if this was how powerful the man was in safe mode. Inari was his best puppet, faster, stronger, more durable than most high-level Jonins when under his command. With a little bit of the Kyuubi's chakra, she became even more dangerous, her touch becoming corrosive. But Orochimaru made her look like a genin, practically dancing around her with flexibility and skills, and somehow managed to strike her even when his attack missed. And they weren't playful slaps either, as she was covered in dents and scratches as Orochimaru ripped two of her tails off. As he spun around her once more and sliced her left arm off completely, with nothing but his glowing left hand, all the while his Sharingan steered towards Naruto. as Inari's 7 tails came over her shoulders like scorpion stingers, as Senbon's exploded out of it with incredible speed and water cannon as well. Orochimaru shift and twist his body like there was no bones in them. He didn't even try to move forward, he just kept on dodging rather quickly and wisely. When the attack got off, Inari moved forward as the joint around her neck break, as what looked like blue steam came out of it. Finally figure out a way of using more than one tail at once, Naruto-kun, said Orochimaru. But Orochimaru shot forward. It must take a moment to regain all that control after purging network for a second. As he flickered back in view, his hand already ripped through Inari's chest where her heart would be if she was human. Not a lethal blow to a puppet, but Orochimaru was not done yet, as he spun around her and grabbed one of her tails and smashed her into the ground, hard enough to cave her chest in. As he put his foot in the back of her neck and pulled, the puppet died a sickening crunch of shattered wood, falling completely limp. Naruto's eyes widened in a casual execution as he quickly searched for another scroll in his jacket, but Orochimaru appeared right in front of him, right on Ajuro's chest as well. The sword was already extended from his mouth as it ripped through the scroll that Naruto brought out, as Naruto leaped out of the way so he wouldn't get stabbed as well. You are surely mistaken if you think I would allow you to release another puppet, Naruto-kun, Orochimaru said, moving forward at a rather slow pace, like he had all the time in the world. Who needs to unseal anything, said Naruto, when you're standing on one, as Ajuro's hand came down, with enough force to squash anything because of the weight, but Orochimaru caught it. His knees only buckled slightly as he grinned at Naruto from the weight. Senjutsu, it really is magnificent, isn't it? Made me wish I haven't brushed up Jiraiya for all those years, when he used to pester me and snaggy over it. I owe Orochimaru more than just for his wonderful kick Genkai, but for a body that can withstand this ability as well. Ashura curled her fingers trying to trap him, but it closed on nothing but air, as her chest then opened up and started to spew things forward. Senbons, kunais, everything, canisters, everything. Orochimaru dodged each and every one of them as his spinning red eyes locked under the panic blue eyes. As Orochimaru opened his mouth, but at that moment, that tattoo in his eyes shrank back down. What natural energy that he managed to gather? It had finally run out of him, as Naruto threw his artificial arm out in front of him, as the blade ripped right through the thing, burying deep, but not hitting flesh. His artificial fingers twitched slightly, some of them severed, but then a worried noise, as the unnatural chakra system inside then constricted. When Orochimaru tried to pull the blade back and finish the job, he found it fastened in place, as he couldn't move it. As a Rasengan spin to life in the other hand, as he smashed it into Orochimaru's stomach, as it grind into the man, as Orochimaru released his hold on the sword, as he was thrown back violently. As Naruto got back to his feet and pulled the blade out of his arm with a grimace. He tried moving the arm but found it worse than useless after what just happened, as he allowed it to detach from his shoulder, as he went into his jacket for a scroll, as he unsealed the replacement limb and used chakra strings to pull it into the compartment. Always have spares. Ironically, you helped me to learn that in tuning exams. As Orochimaru was too busy regurgitating himself once again, as Naruto flashed the blade in his hand, the thing looked like it was dipped in poison, but yet there was no poison on the blade. But Kinjutsu was never his thing, as he spun and threw it away in a random direction, losing it in the forest of bones. Hopefully, if it was lost to him, it was lost to Orochimaru as well. From the glare in those cold, stern eyes, Orochimaru didn't seem to appreciate it at all. But Naruto really didn't give a damn, as he then turned and rushed forward. As Orochimaru's eyes widened as he rushed after Naruto, he must have burned, shredded, and decapitated 5 damning decoys before he located the real Naruto, where the broken part of Inari lay. Running back the broken puppies, Naruto-kun. I wonder if I nick you with the Kusanagi blade before you threw it away. Who said anything about broken, Naruto said, as he lifted a hand. A single chakra string was visible attached to Inari's 9th tail, the one that Orochimaru did not see the function of yet, as that one was pale white, as the other ones were orange or bright blue, but that was white. Blank white sheets pulled themselves away from the environment, flattering in the air like birds, as they came around Inari, as they fused into her body where she was broken and torn apart, till her body was brand new. Orochimaru frowned as his eyes narrowed. Konan. Abilities. You know, said Naruto, I spent 8 months to find out how that worked, and I had to tweak it a bit, as Orochimaru saw the random white paper the same way, as some of them had white Fuinjutsu markings on them. I can't manage as much as she could, but I like to think I make up for it with my individual heal. A suicide proposal then, I didn't think you had it in you, said Orochimaru, as he noticed the sealing formulas on all the papers around. Whoever said this was real me, said Naruto, as an explosion went off. Naruto waited until the rumbling stopped, as he poked his head up from the compartment in Ashura that was used as store kunai. He never went into the bone field at all, instead waiting here using his clones to give Orochimaru a chase around, while planting thousands of explosive tags. They have been doing so ever since Orochimaru created the bone spikes, just waiting at the edge of the clearing, waiting for this opportunity. And they only got one shot because that move used up more subconon chakra that he stored near his tail. He could make more, but it took a lot of time that he didn't really have, as he was watching the battlefield through Inari's vision. As Orochimaru was in a bad condition, entire section of his skin had been burned off, showing bones under the surface, as he could see the man chakra regenerating inside. Yes, for that technique as well, but he wouldn't let him do it. Some of the papers that was around Inari fly towards Orochimaru as quick as possible as they started to spin around him. He tried to swat it away, but it was paper, as he started to latch onto his body, until Orochimaru looked like he was covered in white feathers all around, just trapped inside, as a large sealing ray spread around it. But Naruto didn't frown, as a paper prison fell away to reveal nothing but melted mud. You're not the only one that are good at clone decoys, Naruto-kun. Orochimaru says he grabbed Naruto by the back of the neck and dragged him out of the hidden compartment. Naruto's eyes were wide in surprise of being snuck upon. The only way Orochimaru could have escaped his Byakugan sight was deep enough in the ground, or by using the insulation nature of Ashura against him. Damn, if Orochimaru managed to use that voyage technique even on something like Ashura, that was just some scary chakra control that he had there. As snakes came for Orochimaru's sleeve and bite into Naruto, but it didn't reveal it was Dami. Orochimaru's eyes went wide as Ashura had smashed down on him and slapped him to the side. This time he didn't have the benefit of Sage Mode and his strength to hold it back, as Naruto made Ashura roll over to crush him. As her hand started to push down, but something was pushing her back. Ashura was then blasted back. As Naruto stood there watching, even with the Byakugan, Naruto wondered if he was seeing things, as he had to turn his natural head to see what the monster that Orochimaru had become. It was enormous, as it was as large as Ashura when it reared back all of his head, as it had 8 Hydra head, at least twice as large as Manda had been, and all 8 of the snake's head were looking back down at him. As one of them opened his mouth to reveal Orochimaru, fused with his tongue. I'm impressed, Naruto-kun. I never expected anyone to push me this far, but I'm afraid this is the end. This jutsu is the pinnacle of my power, where I transcend from snake to dragon. As Naruto stared up at the man and put a hand to his ear. What? As his eyes narrowed dangerously towards Naruto before Orochimaru slipped back inside of the snake mouth. As Yura quickly threw her body forward, grabbing onto everything that she could with her 5 arms, as the thing hissed and tried to get out of her grasp. As the thing ripped great chunks out of Ashura, but she felt no pain. It was a stalling tactic at best. Ashura was crippled, and he had nothing so big to deal with that. Well, that wasn't quite true. He just hated using it, as Inir rushed towards the beast that Orochimaru became. As he created a clone and let him take over the reins of Ashura, it wouldn't last long due to the Kyuubi's power. But he needed his full attention on this, as he started to create an enormous Rasengan over Inir's back. But instead of his chakra, he flooded the technique with the Bichu's power. The first time he experimented with this, he obliterated 2 training grounds, and got a good talking to by the 3rd about his carelessness. As it grew and grew, it slowly darkened and lost the swirling color of the Rasengan. It wasn't swirling anymore, he was just dark, a black menacing ball. The thing then started to shrink as Inari's entire body started to sink into the ground under the weight. That was the main problem with this thing. Naruto has not found out a way to throw or use the thing forward once it was created. It was just an insanely big bomb that would obliterate his puppet and anything else nearby, which is why he hated using it. And it was not good against someone that was able to see and form and move quick enough. And Inari was not exactly cheap, you know, but against something big and unmoving and being held back by Ashura, it was the best thing to use. Even after his last failed attempt to use it, Jiraiya had been kind enough to tell him his name. Biju Bomb, he said, as he released the control over Inari, and everything went white. Naruto was already 10 feet down below the earth, with steel and a very thick layer of wood covering him. When he finally pulled himself from underneath the ground, his feet crunched against what used to be soil. The clearing was much bigger, at least 3 times bigger, as he stepped on cracking glass, as the thing was overheated and hot. The center was still red to the point of the touch, as the area was scorching hot. There wasn't much left up here, even as Jorah has been blown to a vacant husk. He really hoped his clones had the initiative to move Anko and Sasuke further away. And still, through all of this, he believed that Orochimaru was not dead yet, as long as they didn't see the body. And that was confirmed when a sword ripped through his back and pinned him through the ground as he gasped. Very, very impressive, Naruto, Orochimaru said, as he came in front of Naruto, looking undamaged and unhurt. The same as he did when they just began this. Such destruction at your fingertips. It will be a shame to not to witness you at the peak of your abilities. But it's over. These eyes have finally picked you apart from your decoys, and I'm sure you're no puppet. Naruto coughed blood in front of him. Every time he moved, he felt pain jolt through his body, but he managed a bloody grin as he looked up into those eyes. Yeah, you're right, I'm not. But he is. And then the shadow clone burst into smoke as Dami stepped into range. And you're within my field of divination, asshole. Orochimaru spun just in time as he got slammed in the chest by the first 2 strikes. 2 points, said Dami, as he struck at Orochimaru's vitals. 4 points. He didn't even bother transforming the puppet, just allowing to lay waste to Orochimaru. 8 points as Dami struck at every exposed flesh. 16 points. 32 points. The final blast sent Orochimaru sailing away as he crashed violently. It took him a moment as he was stunned, as he slowly lifted his head up, but then he smiled. An interesting technique on the Hyugas, but far less effective. After all, he didn't close my points. As Naruto came out from the earth, he looked exhausted and fatigued, but he still smirked at Orochimaru. I was never aiming for your points, he said, as Orochimaru frowned in turn. The Byakugan is such a useful tool, and sometimes I think it's wasted on such a restricting technique. With those points, I can easily pick you apart on cellular level, targeting things that my normal eyes can never see. Dami lifted a hand, the end of his fingertips glinting. Tiny metal needles was emerging there, as Orochimaru looked down to see rotten flesh. I want you to know, said Naruto, as Orochimaru's body started to decay from the inside out. You have yourself to thank for this particular poison I reverse engineered from the enzymes you so happily gave me when you killed the third. As Naruto was calmly walking forward as he spoke. So I suppose this one is really from the Hokage. Orochimaru opened his mouth as another copy came out, but that did nothing, as his skin started to die out once again. It was feeding and consuming him as a whole. No panicking, his mouth opened again, and this time something inhuman came out. A creature that was formed from smaller white snakes, with a crazy look of Orochimaru's face on top of the head. But this did nothing, as Naruto imagined the things that Orochimaru went through to gain immortality, but he was dying on a cellular level as he screamed and writhed in agony, fear and pain and rage, as the shivering mass of his body shriveled up and decay. Finally, there was nothing left but a simple white snake, as it started to run away, but the Kusanagi blade stabbed through its body. From there, it could only look up and cower. 17 years I've been waiting for this, you bastard, said Uncle. But there's no whittling of this one like you always do, is there? As she twists the blade as the thing hissed. Stay dead this time. As she drive a kunai right in its head, driving it straight down to the handle. A moment later, the last remains of Orochimaru burst into black flames, causing her to look up. Just to be sure, said Sasuke, as he walked towards Naruto, as Naruto was simply sitting down in the warm glass, as she probably deserved the closure or something. Well, at least Orochimaru was dead. So, it's over, Sasuke asked. He and Uncle had blacked out at the start of the fight, and by the time they woke up from that large Biju bomb, things seemed to have wrapped up. All they had to show for it was a bit of tiredness and a ache in their neck, but Naruto looked mentally and physically exhausted. I am sure. Hoping so. Because I'm out. Tricks, everything. Nothing else is through. My pockets are empty, said Naruto. Seriously? Okay. So I had a couple more tricks. As Sasuke just looked around the clearing, we're definitely having a spar at some point. As Naruto chuckled and raised his hand and gave Sasuke a thumbs up. Sure thing. As soon as I can move again. Time skip. It looks good, said Naruto, as him and Hanabi walked into the mission office. Jiraiya was hunched over the little crystal ball that Sarutobi used to play with. What? As he looked a bit irritated for them interrupting him. But he looked to see what Naruto was talking about. Well, it was the face on the monument. Are you kidding? They got my nose all wrong. Ain't no rock gonna catch my manly handsomeness. But he was still smiling when he saw his face up there, alongside his sensei and his student. Whatever, said Naruto. So, a mission I'm guessing. What will it be today? Asked Jiraiya. B rank, if you would. As Jiraiya clipped his hand towards nearby Chunin, as the man rifled through some documents until he found something good. Going hard, huh? That's got to be the third this week. Well, I sort of promised, as he glanced towards Hanabi. She was doing her best to avoid his gaze, only stepping forward to take the offered mission. Student exams coming up and all. Figured that it would be best if she can handle anything. She huffed as she nodded to Hokage and left the room, not even giving Naruto a glance. Still giving you a cold shoulder, huh? Said Jiraiya. But he was loving it really. She'll come around, said Naruto. Nearly 3 months since he killed Orochimaru, and Hanabi was still giving the cold shoulder, as if he would ever take her somewhere that dangerous. Eventually. Speaking of women coming around, you managed to track down Tsunade yet? Jiraiya simply grimaced. You know, it might go a lot better if you tell me how this thing works, he says. He looked towards Crystal Ball. Sarutobi Sensei must have told you something. It depends, said Naruto. Are you gonna use it properly? Or are you gonna just peep in the hot springs? As a pervert look came on his face, don't answer that. The Chunins shouldn't have to hear their Hokage lie like a 5-year-old. So mean, Naruto. Being Hokage is a lot of work, you know, which I still blame you for, by the way. I still don't know how you managed that, but I know it was you. And you won't grant that old man his pleasures. Don't do that, said Naruto. It's something the third would say, and on you, it just looks wrong. Whatever, brat. Just go and try to make it up to your student and see if she forgive you. One day, I'll make you the Hokage and see if you like it. Good luck with that, said Naruto. After all, the daimyo actually likes me. As he closed the door before Jiraiya could say anything, it wasn't like Jiraiya didn't have him on the shit list since he found out what him, Anko, and Sasuke did. As he made his way outside, as Hanabi passed in the folder, as he took it as she walked off, as Naruto thought about the, job of being a Hokage. Yeah, that wouldn't fit him. Well, he had taken up Jiraiya's spine at work. Well, something like that more fit him. As he looked at Hanabi. As he was thinking, his gaze lingering a bit too long. So she looked at him. What, she said. She was a bit surprised by the bright smile he gave her. Nothing, just imagine how you look wearing a certain hat. Don't worry too much about it, yet, okay? As he walked off. It took a moment for her to remember that she was still angry at him, but she wanted to know. Hey, what's that supposed to mean? But guys, this is where the series finally come to an end. I hope you guys enjoy this long journey. And I just want to say thank you again. Thanking you for following me on this journey, guys. And I really do hope that you guys enjoy. And remember, just stay in tune because new watches are coming up soon for you guys to enjoy. So yeah, without further ado, I'm out for now. Remember to go and check out the other what ifs. Peace. See you guys tomorrow.